Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Reserved Investments, and thank you for joining me. So before we go any further, I did take a week off. I sometimes do that because I don't want to get burned out. You know, it's very difficult creating a constant stream of steady content day in and day out for you guys. Even though I am a part-time YouTuber, I do like to take breaks every now and then. I think the channel grows and prospers when I do take those breaks, because if I keep pushing myself, the quality of the content is going to suffer. So with that being said, I want to welcome you to part 4 of my 16,000 subscriber Q&A series. And spoiler alert, we do have a lot of good videos in the works. I do want to call out my video game collectors right now. For those unaware, November of 2024, literally, 9 months away at the recording of this video? Guess what? Everybody's favorite amiibos turned 10 years of age old. Believe it or not, it has almost been 10 years since Nintendo amiibos were first released. That means I was 37 years of age when these things hit the market. I am now 47 years of age. So I do want to do videos on amiibo speculation and investment because I made a lot of money in this market, as some of you are aware. And I would like to do some videos where I reveal my secret strategies for making money in this market and also speculating in this particular market without getting obsessed with the Nintendo amiibo line. Because as you can see, over the last 10 years, it has transitioned amazingly. And Nintendo did a brilliant job with kind of creating and pumping up demand there in the beginning, and then also pulling back, and was able to still ignite demand in a lot of new products that are being released due to mass-produced scarcity, where you can only get them through certain retailers or online. People are still making money, myself included, in the Nintendo amiibo market. So I am working on videos on that for you guys that will be released soon. So with that being said, let's get right into the questions. First question, and I love this question because I'm being ridiculed in it. I know, my mind works in amazing ways. Sean, collectibles expert Harry Rinker is on X, formerly known as Twitter. He is over 80 years old and probably close to death. Please don't say that about Harry. I love the guy. All right, I'm not trying to get morbid here, but Jesus. I was disappointed to learn that you, Sean Cermak, are not on Twitter. Why is this? Okay, I got to be 100% honest with you all. I was once on Twitter back around 2016, 2017, 2018. Will you guys know who was president back in 2016, 2017, 2018? I'm not getting political here. I understand your political views may differ than mine, but I got sick of waking up to a crazy tweet every day, every morning. I would wake up, I would go to social media, and I would see something crazy that either that particular individual, who was president of the United States at that particular point in time, said, or somebody else said, and I was getting caught up in politics. I was part of the resistance, the whole 9 yards. So 2018, for my mental health, I decided to pretty much delete my Twitter account. This is why I tell you guys, at present time, I am only on Facebook under my real name, not under Reserved Investments, and I'm also on LinkedIn. Those are the only 2 places you can find me at present time. Now, spoiler alert, there's a lot of people on the collectible side of the trade. There's other YouTubers, there's other individuals that are trying to get me to at least get on the Instagram and start showing off some of my collectibles, some of my more high-end stuff. I have thought about potentially doing that and setting up maybe like a Reserved Investments Instagram account. I don't know. I don't even know if that'll happen. And then I also will sometimes go into the dating world. Yeah, I do that from time to time, even with much regret and chaos. And every once in a while, a woman that I'm dating will be like, you need to get an Instagram account. My own sister chastises me for not having an Instagram account because she says, what's wrong with you? You're an attractive, wealthy guy. Go out there, get an Instagram account, and do whatever people with Instagram accounts do. For the record, guys, I have a Facebook account. I've had it since, 2009, 2010, and I think I only have like 104 friends. It's just not my cup of tea. I don't do that much on social media, except the fact that I did come to YouTube. that really warrants having me a presence on all of these online spaces at present time. Now, I'm probably not going to go back on Twitter simply because, I hate to say this, I am not a fan of Elon Musk. I kind of supported Trent Reznor. If you don't know, Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails kind of had a back and forth with Elon Musk of Twitter, claiming that billionaires think that they have all the answers for the world, and Trent Reznor pretty much shut down his Twitter account. I honestly did post on Facebook that that was probably for the best, and I support Trent Reznor in that decision. So I am not a fan of Twitter. I am not a fan of most social media sites. Please forgive me. It's just not my cup of tea. If you want to converse with me, just do it via email. Do it the old-fashioned way, okay? To be fair, I do occasionally. If somebody reaches out via Facebook Messenger, if it's a chick, if it's somebody that I know, if it's somebody that just has a question for me, I will occasionally answer it. But I prefer, if you're finding my content through this channel, the easiest way to get in touch with me is simply send an email to reservedinvestments@gmail.com. There is no need that you have to go through LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm giving you my email address. I assure you, I answer all my emails personally. There is no imposter. I don't have a hot secretary that I give that job to. If you send me an email, good, bad, indifferent, sending me a love letter, sending me a death threat, I get the email. And if I respond, you're getting me to respond directly to you. I do also offer, shameless plug, consulting services. The same way you would use my consulting services is the same way you email me. You simply send an email to reservedinvestments@gmail.com. One quick caveat, it is impossible for me to keep up with all the email that I get. So if you're just sending me an email stating, Sean, thank you so much. Your videos have changed my life. I love the articles that you write for Antiques and Auction News. I love what you do. I'm probably going to respond and say, thank you so much for the kind words. If you send me an email, though, with 90 gazillion questions that you want me to answer and take my time, understand you may not get a response. You definitely will not get an immediate response. If you send me a death threat, I'm probably going to read it and I'm going to laugh at you because obviously you took the time to watch one of my videos. It triggered you to the point that you had to pull up your email account and send me a death threat, meaning you actually took the time to write a death threat after watching my video. That means I spent a lot of time bopping around your head like Pac-Man chasing those pesky ghosts back in the 1980s. And for that, my friend, you really need some help. You got to get into therapy. You got to do something for you. You got to get a better, brighter outlook on life. If you stay on your head and you let people on YouTube or social media trigger you all day, you're going to have some problems. Believe me, it's the same reason why I got off of Twitter back in 2018. I was getting ticked off at all the negativity, all the crazy political stuff. I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm at my breaking point. That's my best advice for you. So going back to your question, I am not on Twitter. I most likely never will be. I may eventually gravitate to Instagram, but for right now, I am on Facebook and LinkedIn. Those are the only platforms. So on that note, if anybody ever reaches out to you and they pretend to be me and they are not on those platforms, it is not me. And even if they are on those platforms, please, you'd be better off just sending an email to reservedinvestments@gmail.com, because if you send an email to that email address, it's guaranteed to be me. Thank you for the question. Next question, and I appreciate your patience. I got to scroll through some of these because we went through some of them already. Okay, here we go. Congratulations on 16,000 subscribers. What do you personally think will be the next big craze for the new generations in 10 years and 20 years out, besides certified historical documents and graded currency? Okay, well, first of all, I think that the market for certified or original, authenticated historical documents and graded currency, I think that market will definitely, of course, exist 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years out. I honestly think it's a very stable market in the antiques and collectibles trade because both of those markets are very, very sophisticated. You have to have a level of knowledge to play in that pool. And in most cases, if you're going after investment grade pieces, you're probably going to pay more than $5,000 a piece if you are playing in those markets. But what you're really asking is, what do I think is going to be the next big craze for new generations? And in all honesty, I really don't like these questions because, again, it's really asking me to justify your speculative mindset. Let's be realistic. In 10, 20 years, people are probably still going to collect vintage toys. They're still going to collect collectible card games. They're still going to collect video games. So if you want to make a case, I've said this before in earlier videos, for speculating on modern era mass-produced factory-sealed video games, Nintendo Amiibo, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, you go at it, Hoss. But here's the problem. In most cases, pun intended, everybody is hoarding this stuff by the factory-sealed case. So if you're going to put this stuff away for 10, 20 years, expecting to make a profit, there's going to be a lot of it readily available in circulation that is sitting there hiding in storage units, spare bedrooms, closets, and the like. That is the problem. Will some of it be worth money? Yes. So I can't predict what is going to be the craze 10, 20, 30 years from now. I can tell you, as of the recording of this video games are popular, Pokemon's popular, collectible card games are popular, Lego's popular, Nike Air Jordans are popular. It's probably what's going to be collected 6 months from now. Going 10, 20, 30 years out, honestly, again, you already allude to it, I would stick to the historical documents, graded currency, and coins, because those particular collecting categories are more on the antique side of the trade, and they've already proven to stand the test of time. That's what makes investing in those particular artifacts so fascinating to people who have money and understand how these markets actually work. Don't get me wrong. Collectibles are great. I have a lot of emotional attachment to Star Wars, Nintendo, Pokemon, believe it or not, Lego, vintage computer games, Nike Air Jordans, vintage Swatch watches. All of these particular items that I grew up with are items that I really enjoy. I do love those particular items. But trying to guess the next craze in collectibles is going to be very, very difficult the farther out you go. Because right now, I've said this once, I'll say it again on this particular YouTube channel, there's somebody either in a garage or some corporation that is working on something we don't even know yet that it exists. And it's going to take the collectibles market by storm at some point in the future. Because if we go back 40, 50 years, nobody knew what Pokemon was because it didn't exist. Nobody knew what Air Jordans were back in the 1970s because they didn't exist. Well, looking further out, it's usually the products that are created and then create a buzz, become popular, and then generations that move on, they want to buy back those products. So that's pretty much how this market cycle works. You just have to be careful because when most people speculate, they speculate all wrong in these particular markets. And if you don't believe me, look up the rule of 25, the flawed analogy where people think that what's popular now is going to be collected 25 years into the future. If you literally look at a paradigm of what was popular 25 years ago and then go 25 years into the future, it is not usually the same as what's being collected. The rule of 25 is a myth. If you don't know what the rule of 25 is, it is a concept that circulates sometimes on a lot of collecting forums, vintage toy forums, pop culture collecting forums like the CGC comic forums, where people claim that what's ever popular right now is going to be coveted 25 years from now. Now, certain markets are very easy to predict. For instance, if we look at video games, video games are being collected and hoarded in mass. So obviously 25 years from now, I'm here to tell you, there's going to be some Nintendo Switch games that are going to sell for a significant premium on the secondary market. Video games are easy to predict. But I guarantee you there are other popular items that are not seen as collectible that will also be collectible 25 years from now, and vice versa. There's going to be unpopular items right now that are released in the modern era that don't catch steam. 25 years from now, they end up soaring in value just because people look back and they go, hey, I remember them. Well, they never even sold that well 25 years ago. Well, now I want them. And now people are going to pay a premium for those items. So you got to be careful how time and perception changes how we look at some of these markets and some of these items, for better or for worse. Always remember that. You also go in and you ask, what do I feel about digital collectibles, especially comics? In all honesty, I am not a fan of NFTs. I do not like digital collectibles, guys. Digital collectibles are way too new, too speculative. Look at all the videos I've done on the Bored Ape Yacht Club, all that stupid stuff. All of those NFTs, all of those crazy items. Did I say Bored Ape Yacht Club? I think that's correct. Whatever it was. The stupid NFTs, the items that were pumped to the moon, whatever they are, just understand, even if it's rooted in Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, video games, be very cautious of digital collectibles right now. We are still in an era where people want to physically own and interact with the item in question. We are not at a point where a significant number of people grew up with digital items, digital collectibles, items made of fairy dust and fugazi. So if you're investing in that realm, meaning you're going after digital collectibles, be very careful in that market. It does not, as of yet, have legs in the overall antiques and collectibles trade. You are playing in a very, very speculative pond. Notice I said pond, not pool. We are not talking about speculative collectibles here. We are talking a step below speculative collectibles. If that tells you what I feel about these items. Next question. Hey, reserved investments, can you talk about Rolex watch as an investment? There's so much supply. You answered your own question. At the time that the lockdowns happened with COVID and the pandemic, Rolex ceased production a little bit there. Prices on the secondary market got crazy. Everybody was trying to speculate and invest in Rolex watches and other luxury watch brands. I know I am a member of certain Facebook collecting groups that are devoted to Rolex watch investing. And I used to caution people, be very careful if you're going to the market trying to buy a Rolex during the pandemic. It's a bubble. And people would criticize me. They would tell me, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is the new market. All these particular items are just going to keep going up in value. And I would just sit there and shake my head and laugh. Okay, today, if you want to buy a Rolex right now, guess what? It's actually a pretty good time. If you just want to own a Rolex, you're not looking at the investment potential, you're not thinking of flipping it in 6 months or a year. If you want to buy a Rolex right now, go to the market and buy a Rolex. Prices are down in certain instances 30 to 40% from their all-time highs. Now, you're probably still not going to be able to get a popular model at retail prices, but overall, you're not going to pay a premium like you were back in 2020 or 2021. And in that case, I consider this a very good thing. I will give you a word of advice here. If you are going to get a Rolex, if you have the money, you know the risks of playing in that market, you're not doing anything stupid, you're already financially established, and you can afford a Rolex. If you're going to buy one, you are better off going after a vintage model that is being sold from a very, very high reputable dealer or auction house. That is the best advice I will give you, simply because there's value and demand in that particular item, more so than trying to buy a brand new Rolex where you might get taken advantage of. You may attempt to have to get your name on a waiting list if they even sell it to you. You're better off just going into the market, finding a vintage model that you like that is being sold by a reputable dealer or auction house if you want to get a Rolex. Would I recommend it for investment? Right now, in all honesty, the market's been overdone. There's a lot of people that got out of that market. Is there still potential there? Yeah, people love Rolex. I love Rolex. There's a lot of watch connoisseurs out there. The market's not going to die or go away. You just have to be careful and understand, why are you really buying this item? You know, I could go on and on about this. I've told people this. There's a lot of Timmys, Kimmys, and Poindexters out there that think if they slap a Rolex on their wrist, they're going to be impressing people. It actually looks really stupid, especially if you're someone like you work a corporate job, you make $60, $70, $80,000 a year even, you should not have a Rolex on your arm. I work in corporate America. When I was in an office environment, I would never slap my Rolex on a wrist and go walk in to my corporate job and say, hey, here I am, baby. Sean's arrived. People will be looking at me going, well, what the fuck are you working here for if you can fucking afford a $25,000 watch? You guys got to understand, dude, use common sense. If you go on a date with someone, they don't care if you own a Rolex or not. I hate to tell you, we got to get out of this red pill pickup artistry mindset that half the internet is encased in. It is completely stupid. So if you're buying a Rolex for the right reasons, go and buy it. If you're buying a Rolex as an investment or to try to impress somebody, you're buying it for the wrong reasons. I myself, I've talked about this in earlier videos. I own a Rolex. It sits in a safety deposit box. I haven't worn it in 6 years now. 6 years was the last time I wore my Rolex, that I was seen wearing a Rolex, if that tells you anything. Next question. Sean, congrats and thanks for the great content you are putting out. My question is the following. Obviously, the antiques and collectibles market has become very global in the last 20 to 30 years. Yes, it has. Do you still see differences between the US and European markets? If yes, what are the characteristics of those respective markets? Well, you are 100% correct here, my friend. There are a lot of differences between the US and world markets as it relates to antiques and collectibles, and the markets are going global. We even see this in pop culture collectibles. You know, I tell you guys this all the time. As much as I'm cautious against modern era Pokemon products, I do collect a lot of the vintage cards. And if I would do a video on my vintage Pokemon collection, you would see that I have a mix of US cards as well as Japanese cards because I love both. So I think that that's one example of a change in market dynamics where we're seeing a mesh of different cultures, of different attitudes towards some of these products that we know and love. And when we look at the global marketplace for antiques and collectibles, you have a lot of grading companies like NGC or even CGC or some of the toy grading companies that are going international, meaning now collectors from Japan can get some of their items graded. If you collect coins and you live in Europe, if you live in Hong Kong, you can get your coins graded now. So we are seeing this global mass appeal of the entire antiques and collectibles trade. And from that standpoint, I think it's terrific. I think it's great that the antiques and collectibles trade is finally starting to get its due justice in the form of people investing in these markets. As much as I caution about investing in these markets, I still think it is great. Now, you are asking, do you still see differences between the US and European markets? Yes, there are differences in what collectors want to buy, what they collect, what they go after, and their attitudes surrounding it. You know, one of the things, guys, I'm going to tell you a funny story here, and I think they brought this up in other videos that I've done. When I learned the antiques business back at when I was in my teenage years, because I started in these markets when I was 12, learning them, and I had mentors that would guide me. And I remember my one mentor used to always tell me, you know, you really need to learn the antiques market from a global perspective, because everybody in America that gets into the antiques trade looks for items that are only 100 or 200 years of age, because America was founded in 1776. Well, if you ever take a trip overseas, if you go to Europe, especially if you go to Great Britain, if you go to the United Kingdom, you go to London, it really becomes evident that there are antique shops over there where some of the items in those higher end antique shops are literally 500, 1,000 years of age or older. And once you hold one of those items, you realize, oh my God, I've been lied to my whole life. I live in America, right? It's supposed to be the greatest country on earth. And you hold up an antique in America and it's like from 1780. You go over to Europe, you can hold up an antique that's like 1,000 years of age or older. It is an incredible feeling because, again, America wasn't in existence prior to 1776. So it's interesting to get that perspective and have that perspective is something that even a lot of antique dealers don't have. So I just want to state That's what makes these markets spectacular from a global standpoint. For instance, I know a guy, he's in the Nordic countries. I'm not going to say exactly where, but he lives in the Nordic countries and he collects art. And he always laughs because art in America, we tend to like contemporary artists like Warhol, artists of that nature that came about in the 1960s, 1970s. Even if you look at somebody like Jackson Pollock is still pretty much a 20th century artist, even though his pieces sell for millions upon millions of dollars. And if you look at other countries, they're going back to the Renaissance time period. They're going back to the Middle Ages, and they're talking about Leonardo da Vinci. And it's very interesting to see the dynamics of both those markets and how they change and evolve over time. So you can tell this is something that I'm very passionate about. So I will tell you, though, that there are still cultural differences between U.S. collectors and investors and that of overseas collectors and investors. Believe it or not, investing in antiques and collectibles, for the most part, was an American thing. It's now starting to spread overseas, but it started in America. The people in Great Britain, the people in Europe for the most part, the people in Hong Kong, Japan, China, India that are starting to get into these markets, they were not investment minded towards antiques and collectibles like the US, the Americans were. And what's kind of happened is, since we have globalization, since now with the internet, thoughts, ideas can spread across continents, across the world, speed of light, there's a lot of people that are looking at these markets in new ways going, well, gee, if Americans are investing in antiques, maybe me that lives in China, I can invest in vintage or antique Chinese antiques and get a similar result. And that's what's starting to happen. We are seeing a global appreciation of antiques and collectibles. And that is how I'm going to end this particular part 4 of this Q&A, because I am on a positive note where a lot of my videos tend to be negative. So I want to keep that enthusiasm going for the next video. So I'm going to end this here. Make no mistake, if your question was not answered, part 5 will be coming along quite soon. Thank you for watching and have a great day.